So today we're going to talk about the importance of what I call a spiritual duty. If you were watching this short video, chances are that you are what I call evolved in your sense of awareness. What that means is not just, well, that's cool, and it doesn't mean, well, I'm better than or I'm greater than. It really means actually that you've reached a space where your awareness can perceive a greater picture about life in general, and that you tend to, when you look at others, even your own life, you actually can piece out all of the puzzle pieces of it, and you can actually give it a sense. The idea is that when we are reaching this level of consciousness, we are very conscious, very aware of who we are. When I said very, you're actually more than the mass, the collective consciousness, the mass collective consciousness. What that means really in your daily practice, in the way you carry yourself into the world, is that you can no longer choose victimhood consciousness at any point in time when you have to define your life and when you have to define the world the way it is. That means that you're becoming a way shower for others to own their own life and choose from ultimate responsibility and accountability perception. So I call that a spiritual duty because in your core, you have led your mind to reconnect with the soul level at which the perception is much greater. So look into your life today and look at where do you tend to judge another, where do you tend to criticize another, which is really, at the end of the day, criticizing and judging yourself. Where do you seem to not be able to reconcile what's outside and what's inside? Where do you see that you are not always holding the space of what I call the soulful leader that has the ability to carry on the presence where unconditional love stands, where compassion, more kindness, more a sense of responsibility for another. And I know it is at times very challenging because when we look at a relationship between, let's say, a parent and a child, we tend to naturally default to that space where we know better, we see greater, and then if the child defaults to a lesser behavior than he is capable of, in your eyes, you are going to look at him or her as, it's okay, it just needs to grow. The challenge comes when we are in relationship with beings that appears to be 40 years old, 30 years old, 25 years old, 50 years old, and more. What's happening is we tend to not find that space because our eyes stops at the physical vessel, which appears to be 30, 40, 50 years old. Therefore, the mind defaults again into he or she should know better. And so we are limiting the space at which compassion, kindness, understanding vibrates. When we remember that beyond the vessel, beyond the container, the body, the physical body, there are also other dimensions which are intellectual, emotional, and spiritual, we have to really go deeper and realize that the behavior that is displayed may not come from a 50, 40, 30, 20 years old person, but more so a 6, 8, 12 years old emotional being. Being a soul, a mind like yours who is evolved, you have a spiritual duty to lead this soul back into a greater sense of perception, and therefore you need to own your presence to look at the greater picture and recognize that this person who is choosing a lesser behaviors does not do it necessarily for the reason of hurting, pushing the button, or just for the heck of it. It really is because they just do not know better. Emotionally, they need emotional growth. This is your job to actually do it. So where do you need to bring more of your soulful leadership by owning your spiritual duty code? All right, let's think about this.